My notes, huh? Yeah, don't worry about the names. It's not named Mariodoc. It's a placeholder name, and it's not a ring. It's a pendant. Yeah. No, don't worry about it. No, they're not empty. They're just written down at a different school. You don't know them. Listen, you can keep a secret. I'll let you in on it, okay? But you can't tell anybody about it. Plenty of DMs, especially those starting out, have a lot of roadblocks when it comes to learning the basics. And it's likely you're in that camp as well if you're watching this video. Or maybe you're just a seasoned game master who wants to spice up their games a little bit. Well, lucky for you, I've got a few tips and tricks to make it easier for you, either if you're learning or if you just want to add a little bit of zhuzh to your home game. Anyways, as the title suggests, my first tip is to steal everything. What I mean by this is read a ton of books, good ones, bad ones, listen to podcasts, watch TV shows, watch movies, read comic books. Just ingest a lot of media that you find interesting. It doesn't have to be good, it doesn't have to be prestige, but the more places you can pull ideas from, the less recognizable the thing that you're pulling from will be. You can make something that's essentially unique to you and your media diet. And it's unlikely that any of your players will have the exact same media diet as you. So even if they recognize one or two pieces of this story that you're telling, it's unlikely they'll recognize every single part. It's likely they won't be like, hey, you got that idea from here. It'll be like, hey, I haven't seen this done this way before. Trust me, the more things you can fit into your DM soup, the better it'll taste. Now, I'm not advocating for plagiarism in the legal sense, even if I do hate copyright law. Don't publish other people's ideas and try to pass them off as your own, especially because we live in a society where what you create and what you can put out into the world determines your value and whether or not you can live another day. So if you're stealing something from another creator, it's just kind of scummy to do. But you can go all out in your home games. Use whatever music you want, whatever visuals you want. Make it interesting for your players. How else are you going to make them cry? My next tip is make it all up. This may sound counterintuitive, but hear me out. As a new DM, there's a lot of fear that you're going to mess something up. You'll get a stat line wrong, or you'll get an NPC interaction incorrect, and that's not the right way of looking at it. It's all made up, and your players know this, and there's no difference between writing it down beforehand or writing it down during. I don't write down monster stat blocks at all, and I don't write down NPC names until I've already given them to the players. The only thing I write down beforehand is if I have a cool idea that I want to use for later. Whenever I make an impromptu monster stat block, I come up with about how many rounds it's going to take for them to take down, a few cool interactions it may be able to have with other monsters, and if I'm feeling spicy, a few like boss attacks. Then I come up with its saving throws and what you need to save against it, usually somewhere between 10 and 25 depending on how difficult the monster is supposed to be, and a few things that may throw the players off if they aren't prepared for something. And when I make an NPC, I usually just pull a name from the ether or a list I may have written down, and then I give them a few things to be interested in, like this town guard has 2 kids and likes to play chess, and that shopkeep over there likes to sleep in the windowsill when it's raining and likes to collect real cool rocks. Then I give them an attitude to have, like nervous, grouchy, happy, content. I just give them one of those at random and gauge how they would interact with the player based on those few factors. And oftentimes that's the easiest way to take a random NPC that your players find and turn it into something that feels more believable and realistic in the world. Then you just write it all down afterwards, and you got a permanent residence in your campaign. And when I'm making an encounter, I usually try to think of the environment that they're in and see if there are ways for the enemies to interact with it in a unique way. This will give the players permission to interact with the scenery as well, and it makes for a much more dynamic interplay when it comes to fighting monsters. You gotta make your players think on their feet. My third tip is, don't plan ahead. This one says it on the tin. Just don't do it. All you gotta do is one day at the very beginning. Come up with a big bad that they gotta go chase down, a few MacGuffins that they have to do in between then and now, a general genre that they're playing in, and a story hook at the beginning of the game. Everything else can be made up on the spot. It's your world, and you gotta remember you can make it up however you want to make it up. If you have a cool idea, absolutely write it down beforehand, but don't feel the need to write 6 hours worth of content before each week's game. Just barrel full steam ahead. Lay the track down as you go. My final tip, play other games. The easiest way to get burnt out on something is to do it over and over and over again. This can be as simple as having a board game night every few game nights, or you can implement historical games into your game sessions, such as the Royal Game of Hazard, Liar's Dice, Blackjack, or you can use them as ways to represent what's happening in the world. I've already made a video about using war games as a way to represent war in Dungeons & Dragons, and that can be interpreted for other games as well, but you can do that with other situations as well. For example, say you have a high-stakes heist. You can represent that gamble as if it were a game of blackjack. Say somebody who doesn't have a sleight of hand or stealth would just get a regular hand of blackjack and have to play it straight. But the rogue always has an ace to start with, so they get the upper hand. This is one way to make it lean in a player's favor, aka cheating, without having to rely only on D20 rolling. It'll shake up your games and keep people interested. So those are my tips that I follow in my games. Just to go over them again: steal everything, make it all up, don't plan ahead, and play other games. Simple as that. Anyways, make sure not to tell anybody about it, okay? And thanks for coming around and watching. If you want to support me and become part of the fellowship, all you gotta do is click on the Patreon link below, and you can tithe to my Patreon down there, and you'll join the likes of Alex here on my Patreon. You'll get to see all my videos a week early, and you'll get your name up here on the screen. And as always, may the algorithm bless you and keep you, and in the name of the like, subscribe, and holy bell. Amen.